Hey all, it's your boy Cryptic, and today I've got a new episode of Buy, Wait or Never for Cyberpunk 2077. This will be for the PlayStation 4 version, but being played on the PlayStation 5. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this has been one hell of a controversial game, and from launch to last week's worth, and now with it being removed off the PlayStation Store, and just mass refunds and controversy. So what I'm going to try and do here is speak specifically on my experience. What you're going to see is very early game footage, nothing mid or end game. Trying to avoid all spoilers where possible. So let's sort of get into this. I can only speak on my own experience, and that's what I'll be weighing the final verdict on, but I will bring up major issues that many other people are having. So if it's not me who's having it or yourself, it's still something we definitely need to take into account. Alright, now with that out of the way, guys, Cyberpunk, picked it up on day one. There wasn't a huge line at the game store. Download the massive patch. It was roughly 50 gig, almost 50 gigs on the PS5. Total gigabytes, I think it was around 117 gig. Since then, there was a further patch for about 40 gig, 42 gigabytes for 1.04. New patch is pending soon, and then there's going to be two major patches in January, one in January, and a second major patch in February. The game itself, from the outset, creating your character, it is really good. Not the best character creation menu in any game ever. I know there's been so many expectations for this game to be the best and completely revolutionary and reinvent the wheel when it comes to RPGs and first-person sort of shooters and just games in general. It is not that. To spoil the review a little bit, I guess. It's not necessarily that, but it does refine a lot of aspects mechanically and storytelling wise, where I would definitely start seeing these aspects a lot more in other games in the genre. But with character creation, you do have a whole bunch of options for head options, eyes, ears, nose, voices, body options. You can't alternate height of your character. Some games allow that, but not many, especially in the first person view. Probably in the third person you would get that a lot more, but with first person, depending on the height, you'd have to scale those animations for different heights, different camera positions, etc. So it does bring up a lot of complications there, so that's not an option. I ended up creating a female V. I sort of made up my mind that I wanted to play the female character since the start, I guess. Since I guess the reveal of the main gameplay trailer, it made a lot of sense. Just looking at the interactions through the trailers and everything, that a female sort of made more sense to be played. Plus, there's never been many games where necessarily playing a female has always been the best option. They've always been downplayed, or I guess not as cool looking or as interesting. So for once, it was like, you know what, I'm going as a female character, and it's working great. The gunplay, the guns perform fantastic so far. I use a lot of the revolvers, pistols. I've used some of the SMGs, assault rifles, shotguns. They have a lot of impact weight to them. Animations for them are fantastic, especially when you get into the more tech side weapons, where they have tracking or elemental effects, etc. added to them. Really good. Each weapon feels really unique. The upgrades define them more if you put a scope, other modifications to them, etc. Fantastic. Weapon-wise, I think there's a huge range. It's almost Borderlands-y in a sense, where any combat area you get into, there are so many different weapons to pick up, from commons, uncommons, rare, super rare, legendaries, sort of rankings. So yeah, fantastic range of weapons. The thing that grabbed me the most and sort of made me go, wow, I haven't really seen this quality of, I guess, conversation and choice in a lot of RPGs, especially if you look at the Elder Scrolls, if you look at the Mass Effects, etc., those type of RPGs, third person or even first person, they always had that portrait view of who the person you're talking to, and you're standing up and you're having this conversation, and it doesn't really feel like a natural conversation you would have in real life, where people might be sitting in different areas of the room, you're not necessarily face to face. That it's just a one-on-one conversation. They're not moving, they're not doing things, they're not having a drink, they're not necessarily having a smoke, whatever their activity, their side activity that they're doing. Cyberpunk remedies that, where I'll give an example here. It's not too much of a spoiler, if any at all. You're in a bar scene looking for intel on a particular person. You end up meeting that person. They take you to a room to the back where don't want to be disturbed. If anyone asks, we're not here. You go into the room, they let you in, you sort of walk around and you can sit wherever you want in the room. It's got like a curved seating, sort of like a club style sort of thing, and you just sit down. They come into the room, they're pacing, sitting, standing up, you know, grabbing objects, doing things as you're having this conversation, getting intel, and it felt so natural, so like refreshing to see that level of refinement in something so simple as a conversation, as it's more engaging, more interesting, instead of this dialogue piece where it could be insanely boring or really, really good. Which is fantastic. That's what you want. This is where you want games to be progressing and getting better. It's not reinventing the wheel, but this is where RPGs I feel like should have been a long time ago. But they probably were limited in the technology and the scope, and a whole bunch of things where certain things were more prioritized over others. But here they sort of nailed that, which is fantastic. Dialogue options, there is plenty. There is ability checks or stat checks that let you go to certain options if you pass the check, or if you don't, then they're going to be grayed out. Or you might have another option because you spec into two different sort of things. Or the more generic option, and then they could lead you through different paths and different scenarios, and one where you could lead into a full-on gunfight, or another one where it's like, no gunfight needed, we came to a deal, we're all good, everyone's a winner sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of choice, meaningful choice that really plays out missions differently, which in turn adds to you wanting to replay the missions to see what other outcomes you could have had, or what other scenarios could have played out, so yeah, really, really good. The world itself is huge. It's very dense. It's not like, just sparse, empty lands where you're just walking or running or driving forever without many activities. A lot of in Night City, where you'll be driving and you will come into like random events that happen, like police events or events that are plotted out in your map. And if you open up the map, you will see so many activities to do, so many areas to go to shop, to eat, to do different activities, to do missions, to discover the world. And it is fantastic. They don't really stop you from, like, let's say if you're the type of person like, I don't really want to be annoyed by an enemy or by an activity, I just want to go from point A to point B and just not be distracted, I have tunnel vision, I want to go, you can completely do that. If you're the type of person like me who gets completely sidetracked by the main quest and just does side quests for days, you can do that, and I absolutely love it for that. Visually, the game looks great on the PlayStation 5. Now, compared to the PC, not really close, especially when you ramp up ray tracing. You need to also remember that the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series versions don't have the next gen patch. They're running the PS4 Pro version at unlocked frame rate, PS5 achieving 60. Pretty smooth 60 from my experience. I haven't had really any frame dips, not even in the driving scenes, which a lot of people seem to be reporting on other consoles, which I'll get to towards the end, which also comes into the verdict of the game. And the Xbox Series versions are running the Xbox One X versions, obviously at higher frame rates and etc. The I think Xbox Series versions have a higher density of NPCs in the public areas, but even on the PS5, it's not really that bad. It's not really that low. From my understanding, the frame rates on both are very similar. The PS5 might be running at a higher resolution, I think. for longer periods while maintaining 60 frames per second. Um, but then again, that's not 100% like fair apples to apples comparison to the Xbox Series version because they do have more NPCs on screen, which is more CPU limiting. Which, let's say, with the next gen patches when they come out next year, January, February, whenever, um, we'll see how that is. You know, with potential ray tracing in global illumination, lighting, shadows, reflections, etc. We'll see how it goes on the PlayStation 5. But on the PS5, from my personal experience, it's been butter smooth. There's been a few anomalies with graphical glitches and menu glitches. Nothing game breaking. Graphical glitches where not so much texture pop in. Haven't noticed much pop in. I will be honest on that front on PlayStation 5. But I will notice like one main instance was an NPC was missing, but you could see their mobile phone hovering in the air, sort of like, you know, in the position that you would hold it if you were talking. So that was a bit weird. I had one crash and only one crash. It was as I got in, about to get into the vehicle to drive off. It hard crashed to the menu, home screen, loaded it back up. I was exactly where I was left off. I don't know if I had autosave prior to that, but from experience from a few friends who've been playing it either on PS4 and PS5, where they've also hard crashed in the main menu, they seem to bounce right back. So it seems like they've got a good autosave feature built into the crashing, which is good. I don't know if that was initially there or through the patches, but it is there. So we'll definitely take it. And I did have one issue that forced me to have to reset the whole PlayStation 5, like shut it off and turn it on from a cold restart. Which going into the menu, not the main menu, but the character menu to equip and unequip the items and gear, clothing pieces, etc., for different armor ratings or ability ratings or resistances, etc. Could not get in. You'd get into the menu, but you couldn't interact with anything. It was just like it was dead. So that caused a full restart. So far, that's the main issues that I've noticed. No floating guns, no pop in, no random things spawning out of thin air. Haven't had any of those. So it's been pretty good so far. Story-wise, really good. Voice acting is fantastic. The voice actors that they have and the script writing is some of the best, if not the best, in a video game that I've heard so far. And I rated things like the original Last of Us on the PlayStation 3 and 4 highly for that. That had some of the best voice acting and script writing that I thought at the time. Then The Witcher had some amazing stuff, and now this just beats all of them out of the water. Really fantastic. It feels like a lot of the characters that the voice actors they picked, it was pretty much a perfect match. Sound-wise, the effects of the guns, like I said, they feel meaty. They also sound meaty. They sound like what they should, especially if they're tech weapons or heavy weapons. You know, the real bangs and booms and effects. Fantastic. Um, yeah, the soundtrack itself, really good. If you did pre-order, you got a digital download of the 2 CD soundtrack. I've been listening to that for a fair bit, and it is awesome. I wish more games did that as pre-order bonuses, where they give you a full soundtrack. A lot of them do samplers, and then you have to buy the full soundtrack for $10 or $20, depending on how substantial it is and who the publishers are, etc., and who they got to do it. But yeah, it being included in, I think I bought this at JB Hi-Fi for $79 at launch. Yeah, it was $79 at launch, which was fantastic. So real steal there with all the posters, stickers, keychain, etc. Steelbook, all that, fantastic. Yeah, overall the game is really good when it is working. This is the part that'll get into, I guess, the caveat. The game on PC, buggy, playable, okay to good. PS5, good. PS4, base PS4, even PS4 Pro, I would dare to say, Xbox One X and base Xbox, absolutely terrible. Graphical pop-ins, model pop-ins, crashes, physics bugs, game-breaking bugs where you can't progress anymore and you have to revert to old saves where they could also become bugs. it released in a mess. Which, for CD Projekt Red, you know that they prided themselves on launching games at a level that was acceptable, that was finished. Yes, The Witcher 3 was buggy, but it wasn't game-breaking buggy. You know, this is game-breaking buggy to the point where Sony has now removed it off the PlayStation Store and offering full refunds for digital versions. That is disappointing. I wouldn't say I was hyped for this game in a sense that, you know, this is gonna be the be-all and end-all of video games. No, I was actually hesitant to pre-order till, you know, I made some, you know, tradings with controllers, etc. And I had in-store credit remaining, and I used the in-store credit to put a pre-order on it, and that's where it was. And then until the gameplay came out, it's just like the hype came up and happened. So yeah, though, all in all, I would definitely say the game is fantastic when it's working, and it is for me on the PlayStation 5, but it's not for everyone. And on the PS4, it's borderline, if not completely unplayable. And on the base Xbox, the same way. The fact that Microsoft hasn't issued a similar thing as Sony for refunds and is taking the digital versions off the store is disappointing. Absolutely disappointing, and I think they should do it now. And if they don't, it's already too late. With that said, guys, this is a wait. Across all platforms, this is an absolute wait. Wait till at least February, where the second major patch is implemented, and seeing updates to the game. I will have updates on the game, watch it, see then if it's worth getting, if it fixes the major problems, if the game becomes stable on lower base, because you got to remember, there are more than twice as many, 1,000 times as much PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones out there compared to the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. This thing broke records when it went off for pre-orders, over 8 million pre-orders, and made their money back on the PC version alone, and then that was sold. It sold more on PC than console, but the console wasn't far behind. And consoles do tend to sell more over time compared to PC. Yeah, it is not worth getting at the moment. Wait for it, wait till it's stable. When the bugs are fixed, and they will be fixed, because CD Projekt Red don't have any other option. They've tarnished all the goodwill that they've built up over the years from the original Witcher to the second and the third. And yeah, it's gotten to a degree where this is their lowest of lows at the moment, and they don't have a choice. They will have a patch out before Christmas, if it's not out already, when this video goes up. And the first major patch in January, and the second major patch in February, and that's meant to fix all the major performance issues. It will not, and they've stated this on their press releases on Twitter, social media, etc. It will not make it look like the PC version on the base PS4 and base Xbox. That's fine. I don't think anyone expected that, nor should you have expected that. But what you should expect is a game that functions at a stable frame rate, that isn't broken, and you haven't been ripped off and misled through other reviews because they were only given the PC version and had to use controlled footage through CD Projekt Red, and couldn't use the footage that they recorded till after launch day of the game. So yeah, guys, without me rambling on too much, and you can see the disappointment, I guess, in my voice, this is a definite wait. If you do have the game and you are not experiencing certain things, comment them below. Let's have a civil discussion about it. Let's not get all fanboy about it or fangirly about it. Even the best developers screw up. The difference is that CD Projekt Red isn't the devil. They're not the worst out there. They're not like EA and Activision. They are willing to fix the game, and they will. They will actually go out and say, hey, we screwed up. We should have done better. You deserve better. They've organized refunds through them and through the Sony and Microsoft partners and other retailers, and they're gonna fix them. They're working on them now. The team will get a holiday through Christmas as much needed, because it's not the developers' fault. Apparently the devs are still gonna get their bonuses, which is good, because this was a management issue. Management screwed up. Management ignored the blatant signs of the issues with the base console version. Thought that the patch would be good enough. They promised Sony and Microsoft that the patches on day one will fix all the problems, and then it got passed for certification for PlayStation and Xbox where it shouldn't have. There's no day one patch that will fix the issues. It's impossible. Yes, it was 40, 50 gigs, but it's probably content that was missing from the game. Absolutely missing. And they were working to the last second, reportedly, on the base console versions to get it, up and running properly. So God knows what it looked like before on any version before the day one patch. And hopefully we never know, because that is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, guys, it is a definite wait. Do not buy this now. Wait till February. I will have a follow-up on this as patches go up. I'll have other content relating to Cyberpunk and other games. Again, if you have the game or you don't, feel free to comment below on your experiences. If this video was informative and helpful to you and enjoyable, please take the time to click the thumbs up button to show your support. Leave a comment, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you could share the video as well, that would be great. It helps, get the views getting up there. I know, a fairly new channel and in a niche that's overly saturated, but everyone's got opinions, and I've got mine, and I sort of want to share that with the world. So I appreciate all the support, the subscribers we've gained, all 16 of you. But yeah, with that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.